Okay, so what we're dealing with in F-6 is when you know the amounts of all the reactants, but you don't know which one is limiting, okay? Up until this point, I've always told you which one's the limiting reactant, so you know which one to use. But now I'm not going to tell you, okay? So I want you to pretend like the 5 grams of nickel is the limiting reactant and do stoichiometry to tell me the theoretical yield in grams of nickel 2 chloride. And then for number 2, I want you to pretend like the 6 grams of hydrochloric acid is the limiting reactant, and then go to grams of nickel 2 chloride again. Okay, so in number 1, we're pretending like nickel's the limiting reactant. In number 2, we're pretending like hydrochloric acid is the limiting reactant. Okay, and once you get both answers, okay, you should have 2 answers. Once you get both answers, you should have good, and round your answers to 3 sig figs. So you have 2 different amounts of ZnCl2, or NiCl2, not ZnCl2. Good. Right.
Yeah.
So you should have two different answers. They end up being kind of close to each other, but they're definitely two different answers. Okay. Or I know you've been absent, so you've been away. But this is 5 grams NI, and that's 1 mole NI, right? NI. And then you look at your flow chart, and you'll figure out what goes on the next one. All right. Perfect. Okay. Good. All right. So everyone should have gotten 2 answers that are kind of close together, but like not exactly the same. They won't always even be close together. Good. Okay. So what we have, you should have for number 1, you should have gotten 11.0 grams of NiCl2. And for number 2, you should have gotten 10.7 grams NiCl2. Now, both of these things can't happen. We can't have 2 theoretical yields. Only one of these is the theoretical yield. But at this point, you have enough information to determine which one is actually going to happen. Which reactant leads to the theoretical yield? The limiting reactant or the excess reactant? The limiting reactant. And you have enough information now to be able to tell which of these is limiting. So I want you to talk to your neighbor and see if you can figure out which of these is limiting reactant and write a little LR next to it. Okay? Figure out which of those is the limiting reactant and write a little LR next to it. That's the one we're going to use. Think about what limiting reactant means. The more you think now, the more this objective will make sense. So think about what does limiting reactant mean? You think you know? My classes mostly got it right, which I was very impressed. So think about, is the limiting reactant nickel or HCl? All right, raise your hand if you think it's nickel. Raise your hand if you think it's HCl. Yes, it's HCl. Right LR there. Okay. Were y'all thinking it was nickel because there's less nickel?
Yeah.
Well, you got to incorporate like the fact that this gets used up twice as fast.
Oh.
Plus, this is the grams, and you got to convert to moles first before you even look at that. There's like a lot of factors going on. The molar mass plays a role as well as the mole ratio. So really, to tell that this is the limiting reactant, you've got to do the whole thing. It's very hard to just look at these and say, oh, this one's limiting, this one's excess. That's very hard to do. But if you go all the way to the same product both times, then you can tell whatever leads to less product is the limiting reactant. Whatever would lead to more product, write ER for nickel, okay? Whatever would lead to more product is the excess reactant. If all the nickel was used up, we'd make 11 grams of product. But do we have enough HCl to make 11 grams of product? No. Everyone put a big fat X over the 11 grams. Make it the biggest X you've ever drawn, okay? You will never use that 11 grams for anything, okay? The excess reactant cannot be used to predict the product, only the limiting reactant. So we killed 3 birds with, I like to say we killed 3 birds with 2 stones, okay? We did 2 calculations and we figured out 3 things: the limiting reactant, the excess reactant, and the theoretical yield, okay? This is how it's going to be in the lab from now on, is you'll know the amounts of both reactants, but you won't know which one is limiting. So you got to do 2 calculations, and then from then on, use the limiting reactant as the basis for all of your calculating, okay? So if you could turn to F6, all these steps at the top of F6 are basically what I just guided you through, okay? So F6 is all about performing stoichiometry calculations when both reactant amounts are given, and I don't tell you which one is limiting. Up to this point, I've told you which one is limiting or told you which one is excess, so you know to start with limiting, okay?
Sorry, I got really bad.
So you know from now on, you'll have to do 2 calculations, figure out the limiting reactant, and then use that to predict the product, okay? So you can go ahead and try number 1, okay? 2.67 grams of aluminum metal is reacted with 2.50 grams of oxygen gas, according to the reaction above. I'm not telling you which one's the limiting reactant. 4.34 grams of aluminum oxide is produced in the lab, okay? When I say in the lab, what does that mean? It's the what? What's the word? Actual yield, okay? You're not going to use that till the very end. You're not going to use that till the very end when you calculate percent yield, okay? So don't use the actual yield for anything.
Yeah, we're doing it with both.
Okay, so you can start with 2.67 grams of aluminum, and then you could start with 2.50 grams of O2. Like that. Okay, and whichever reactant leads to less product, that's your limiting reactant. Whichever reactant leads to less product, that's your limiting reactant. Okay. And I'm going to put the final answer to 1D up here. Okay. So the percent yield is 85.9%. That's what you get in the very end. Okay. There's a lot of steps before that. But let me know if you don't get that in the end, and we can troubleshoot. Oh, yeah. I think it's more the lights, but maybe. But you can get a different. Yes. There we go. That might help.
Let's go.
You got it? 85.9%. Okay.
It just means 4 a.m. Do I go on the next one?
Yes, I like how you got all your. Wait, you're trying to go to. You need one more fraction.
But I still got it.
Yeah. Go to Grandsdale. Oh, whenever you see moles over moles, do you remember? Moles over moles is the mole ratio. Coefficient. Remember that? Yeah. All right.
Should we move
Let's go. Yeah, you can keep going. Did you get the answer? Look at all this work you guys are doing. Oh, it's just a rounding thing. I got 5.05 because that rounds up. So if you make that 5.05, you'll get the right answer. I mean, you're so close. It's not a big deal. Yeah. All right. Good job with your molar masses. Good work. Okay. And once you figure out everything in number one, fill in all these parts. The limiting reactant, the excess reactant, the theoretical yield in grams of product, and then your percent yield. Remember, they gave you the actual yield here. Okay, they gave you the actual yield there.
What are you talking about? How do you get 7.97? I just did have the exact same thing.
For number two, you got to write your own equation. Yeah. Number two, you got to write your own equation and balance it.
Well, wait, how do you get the fourth fraction? It's just you take all the atoms that are in AO2 and 3 and then figure it out. You add them all together.
What? Yeah.
If they go to, if their charges go together, I have to make them 2 because BR2.
Oh yeah.
Because BR is diatomic.
Yeah.
When it's alone, it has a 2. But when it's in a bonded to lithium, it'll just be LiBr.
Yeah, but when you start, it's 2 Li.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, bathroom? Yeah.
And then it's plus, and then it's 2 LiBr.
I guess I just forgot the what's it called? Still not there.
Great. There you go. Do you want to take science class next year? No. Jaden, do you want science class next year? No. You guys, man, so many don't want science. You want science next year? AP Physics? Okay, put that in the form. I'm still accepting the form. You can still submit the form.
I love science.
AP Biology, you also want anatomy. Okay, I put you in both of those. And then wait on physics senior year.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Because I think it's just very hard with health sciences to know.
Yeah.
AP Bio and Anatomy are like obviously good physics. It's hard to know physics. Uh-huh. So I said the form was due at 11 a.m., but you can still submit it. And then I have to put it in by 3 p.m. tomorrow. So if you tell me during class
Oh
tomorrow,
my god, we can
Sure,
do
it's
it.
gonna be 5.045. So 5, yeah, you got around it.
okay, I'll put you in that.
Get 5.5.
Sarah, do you want
5.5.
science?
Grams.
Natalie, do you want some? You guys
That's
do
it.
not want science. You're 11th grade?
Wow, I got one.
I doubled up this year. I'm taking
Oh, so you have like 4 science
Maybe,
done already.
maybe gave one.
Because you're 11th grade. Yeah, so you're
Plus, it doesn't have anything to do with it.
He died.
yeah.
He died.
Man, you guys, I thought I would get you hooked on science.
Let's just be honest.
I do
He
like
died.
him.
He probably got the vid.
But I just don't have enough
He
room
got
in my
the E.
schedule.
That's what he's got. That's why he's not.
Or are you doing statistics?
He can do my desk. He's trying to walk in.
Right.
I was
Charlie,
thinking
do you
about
want
science
science?
next year.
Yeah, I got one.
Oh, you have to, because you're 10th grade, right?
Well, only one. I actually did the second fraction. Congratulations, loser.
Did you like biology?
I'm sorry. That
Or
was
like math?
Which one's like the direct? Which one's the actual? I have no right or
You don't want to take
left.
physics?
Yeah, I'm just really
Well,
curious
okay,
on what
do
it is.
like honors physics.
Two.
You've done algebra 2, right?
Two.
Are you in it right now? You're in it right now. So yeah, you could do honors physics, and then if it's like, you can always change the level you're in. You know what I mean? If you don't like honors, you could just do regular. You can move down, you know. You can, or if you decide you want AP.
Does Mr. Barron teach every physics class?
Yeah, he teaches all 3. He usually has like 1 class of each.
When?
But then I think that's probably the best way to get your 3rd core science.
What about like?
Yeah.
Did you have match yesterday? Yeah, that was.
You don't have to fill it out. I'll just put it in.
Okay.
Grade 12.
I've heard that honors physics isn't much different than AP physics.
In AP
though.
physics, they have the same requirements. Like the prerequisites to get in are the
Yeah, but I
same.
heard it's the same.
Yeah.
Are you used?
But one of them has
So would it be more
Yeah.
worth to
Wow, you asking me.
AP or honors?
Do the best.
Because if you do worse in honors if they're the same class, then it's not as
I do, but I'm
Best
usually
how do you say like
You're right.
looked upon as if you were.
Well, and don't you get more weighted credit in your GPA?
And more weighted too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Annie was telling us like
They're not different.
you should take like if you have a bunch of APs right now, then you should keep going with it.
If
You
not,
should
you're not
like
great.
drop your
Even if you get like an A+ on everything,
yeah, it still
it still
brings your
drops your grade
GPA.
down.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're talking about that.
And people who take electives like choir and art
I think
rather than study hall, it pulls them down.
that's like crazy.
Yeah. Danny, do you want to take science?
You go to.
No, you guys don't like
What do you
science.
mean by
Just on-
I like
down?
him.
But
But
I'm
I like
done.
this class, but that's enough. But like I've taken
And
my
I've already
students,
taken
I'm
tests
done.
complains about.
I'll take it.
Sky, what was that? Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh,
What did you mean by
Like, let's say you take
Science class.
let's say you take 6 AP classes, choir that's like not honors, you know, just like normal choir.
It's because GPA is weighted different.
And then there's someone else that takes, and you get straight A's. And then there's someone else that takes 6 AP classes and study hall. Their GPA is higher.
Really?
They have a 5.0, whereas you, because you have, you see what I'm saying?
Like if they get like good grades.
If you get perfect
like A+,
grades.
yeah, if they get like 100 in every class. Like if you guys had the same grades, like if you had like a 90 in every class and they had a 90 in every class, they'd have a better grade than
It's
you.
because
Because
non-weighted
they're weighted for.
non-weighted electives bring you down to a
Oh.
Like, it's better for you.
Choir brings it down.
Because if choir is not, like if it's an elective that it's not honors or AP.
He's above you. He's already in the breaks.
So it really hurts people. So like when I was in high school, the guy that tried to be valedictorian did not take any electives. He just took a study hall every year and only took AP and honors.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the girl who was salutatorian took choir every year.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so her GPA was like, and they both got straight A's, but her GPA was a
So
little
nothing's
lower.
pulling their grade down.
Right.
I thought it would bring it up.
So it's a way to work the system, but then it's kind of sad that like you don't have
And then-
any electives or
You
like,
have nothing
Yeah.
fun.
right. I mean, she got into Harvard, so, and he got into Princeton, so I think, I think she ended up beating him in the end.
She did it better. And at least she enjoyed her
I don't know,
life.
Princeton's pretty good too.
She enjoyed her high school.
And at Harvard, she was like in an a cappella group.
So
See, she's
I'll take-
living her life.
I'll take
What's
AP
he
physics
doing at
next year.
Princeton?
AP physics?
yeah, I'll
Okay.
take
Crying.
it. What was my math grade have to be?
Because
Was it a B or an A?
An 80.
Because I had a B.
Okay.
Like I had a B. I was just making sure it didn't have to be an A because I didn't really good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Here is all the work for number 1.
I was just hesitant because I'm in AP Calc and AP Econ next year, so I was hesitant.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
But I'll take it.
Okay. And then here are the answers for 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, you should do number 2 now. Number 2, though, you have to write your own equation and balance it.